June 16, 2020. You are listening to the Inquisitive Bro podcast. Today we're doing the 2006 NBA redraft. It's a terrible draft.
It sucks.
I'm Chris. That's Andrew. Let's go. Okay, Andrew. So we're doing the 2006 NBA redraft. Initial thoughts about this draft?
It's the Bargnani draft.
It is the Bargnani draft. That's what it's known as. I think not even to Raptors fans, just like most NBA fans in general.
Yeah, I mean, in the modern era, this is one of the top 5 worst first overall picks. You think of the Bennetts, you think of the Olowokandis, the Kwame Browns. He's up there. He's in that draft class of special number 1 picks.
He is definitely up there, actually. I did a little bit of research on Basketball Reference about how bad of a number 1 overall pick he was, but I want to save that for when we kind of get into him. Because let's run through the draft first, how it actually happened, and then we'll kind of get into the key characters and who sucked and who didn't suck as much.
Before that, how excited were you when you found out that the Raptors landed the first overall pick?
Okay, actually, this is kind of embarrassing, I guess, in hindsight to think about this, but this was what made me a Raptors fan. I was a full-on just hockey fan before Andrea happened, and it wasn't until I found out that we had gotten the number 1 overall pick, the Raptors, that is, and we were potentially going to take this Italian dude who was apparently going to be the next Dirk Nowitzki, and I had heard of Dirk at the time, and I was pretty pumped up, and safe to say that my expectations were not met.
Yours, mine, and nobody else's.
Do you think Andrea Bargnani's expectations were met? Do you think he met his career expectations?
That is an excellent question. I wonder if anybody has asked Andrea, did you think this was how it was going to play out?
He'd probably be like, yeah.
Yeah, actually, this went way better than I expected.
Yeah,
I'm thrilled.
They paid me like $80 million throughout my career. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Now I live in Tuscany or something. I don't even know where he lives, but he probably lives in some awesome Italian villa. His life is doing pretty good.
You think he's not playing professional basketball anymore?
I know he's not playing professional basketball anymore. I checked.
Oh, okay.
He played like after he finished off at the Nets. He played a little bit back in Italy, and that lasted like a year, and then he was done.
Fine.
So, but hey, I guess I'll just look really quickly to just hammer home $73,500,000 for his NBA career. So
that is incredible.
I mean, pays to be a bust, which is a common theme you'll find in the NBA.
Yeah, seriously.
If you're good enough to be a bust, you got paid.
If you can manage to be really good at basketball somewhere through the age of like 17 to 19 and just get some NBA eyeballs on you.
I think if you're good by the age of 13, you'll really good, you'll start getting enough notoriety to get into a big college program.
No, but if you're good at 13, you got to keep it up through your later teens.
Yeah, okay, 13 is a little early. 15, 16.
I think a good senior year, and you're probably set.
Junior, senior year, yeah. Point is, pays to be a bust. Anyway, so let's go through this draft. So obviously one of the big storylines, Andrea Bargnani went number 1. This was not a consensus pick. Although Andrea was highly regarded throughout the industry, everyone's like, oh, he might be the Italian Dirk. Everyone liked his shooting stroke. Everyone thought that he would turn into a star. I mean, he was a little soft, but they're like, he'll develop into a rebounder. He'll develop into a better all-around scorer. They were wrong. Number 2, Lamarcus Aldridge, who, I don't think this is controversial to say, had the best career out of anyone in this draft.
Yeah. Possibly him and Lowry, the only Hall of Famers in this draft.
Future Hall of Famers?
Yeah. I think so. I mean, you look at numbers. Lowry's getting in because of the championship.
Actually,
it's the NBA Hall of Fame. Everybody gets in.
Yeah. He probably will.
Yeah.
And I think he needs to. I think he needs to continue on the path that he's on for a little bit on his later career. Like, put up a few more good statistical seasons just to really hammer home.
But this is the 06 NBA draft. There's only 8 guys from this draft class still playing in the league. Most of these guys they hit their primes. Lowry hit their prime. Aldridge hit their prime. The best of what we've seen of these guys. Yeah. But we've seen the best of these guys already.
Yeah.
So if they're going to make a case for the Hall, it's pretty much either happening for them now or it's not going to happen.
Well, I disagree with the case of Kyle Lowry because, one, his first few years, I mean, not Hall of Fame worthy at all, as we'll get into.
But if
when
he
we
retires
draft him.
today, he's in.
Probably. I mean, he's still really good if he keeps it up for a few more years. Because he doesn't have that many All-NBA teams, for example. He has good All-Stars, but he doesn't have that many All-NBA teams, not that many All-Defensive teams. Blake Murphy of The Athletic, who's a Raptors beat reporter, likes to say that if there was an All-NBA fourth team, Kyle Lowry would make it a lot of times.
Yeah, well said.
So Lamarcus Aldridge, number 2. Number 3 to Charlotte was Adam Morrison. One of the biggest busts ever. Arguably, I mean, I don't even think this is that big an argument to make. A much bigger bust than Andrea.
Yeah, definitely. I think he gets somewhat overlooked because he didn't go first. He went third. And this was a weak draft class, so there wasn't much to choose from. But
Well, he was supposed to be good. He was putting up huge numbers at Gonzaga.
yeah, he was. His game was very, shoot the three, grab a rebound, get some offensive putbacks. He had soft hands.
Scoring tweener.
Yeah.
But unfortunately,
Tore his ACL in year 2.
and that really changed his career. I mean,
that was it. That was the end.
And I mean, I wonder a more resilient person would have been able to come back better than him. But I mean,
ACL's a weird one. Some guys come back, some guys don't.
But you hear a lot about, with Adam particularly, you hear a lot about his potential mental health.
Right.
He wasn't, let's just put it this way, he was an odd duck. He was known for 2 things in Gonzaga, putting up buckets and crying whenever he lost, basically.
I've never heard the expression odd duck.
What?
I've heard ugly duckling.
Well, that's a thing too, but odd duck is definitely a thing.
I've never heard odd duck until you just said it right now. Maybe I'll incorporate it into the language.
You should.
Maybe I will.
You're an odd duck for not knowing that odd duck is a saying.
3 years, 2 championships for Adam Morrison. That's pretty good. Pretty good for 3 years.
Didn't he only win 1?
No, he got 2. He got them both. That's almost like Norris Cole. First 2 years in the league, 2 championships.
Lakers. Oh, no.
Lakers. Okay,
You're right. Yeah.
This is funny. On draft night, whoever was doing the draft goes, big sigh of relief for Adam. Seems like he's been holding his breath since he got here. And I guess we know why. Maybe Adam knew something that the rest of us didn't know.
Yeah. He was actually kind of in the conversation for number 1. I think the Raptors nixed that pretty early. At least Brian Colangelo was smart enough with that. Another guy who was in contention for number 1 went to number 4, Tyrese Thomas. He kind of a bust as well. Wasn't that good. Sheldon Williams, number 5, also a bust. Number 6, Brandon Roy. He was drafted by Minnesota, but ultimately went to Portland. Brandon Roy is an interesting character in this draft, arguably the most talented guy. I think we'll get into that.
Yeah, I mean, if he's still playing today, he easily goes number 1 in this draft.
Yes, but also the reason why he isn't playing today was the reason that kept him from going number 1 in this draft.
Yes. And yet it wasn't a reason enough for him to slip further than 6th.
Yeah. He was talented. Always was.
He was, yeah. You gotta have knees, though, to combine with the talent. Good knees and good talent make for a good player. Write that down. That's a good one. That's a quotable quote.
You think that, how all the teams in their locker rooms have just these random, quotes and, sayings, work hard and championships will come? I don't know. I'm sure one of them have that. Probably Minnesota.
Probably, yeah.
Work hard and you'll get a championship. Yeah. But, yeah, good knees, good work, good talent.
Yeah, good talent, good knees, good basketball player.
Number 7, Randy Foye. Had a solid career. Rudy Gay, number 8. He was another guy who actually could have gone number 1. He was in the conversation, and you can see why. I guess he'll be drafted in this, I assume. I assume you have him in your top 14.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, we'll get into why guys of his ilk are such attractive potential prospects.
Even to this day, it's tough for organizations to pass up a guy who gets you an empty 20 PPG.
I said we'll get into this. But
I just want to give a little teaser.
Yeah.
In case they didn't know exactly what Rudy's game was all about.
Well, that's kind of 50% of the point. But yeah, exactly. Guys can put up buckets. Good NBA frame. They'll always fall for that. Number 9, Patrick O'Bryant. Mohamed Sane, another number 10, another huge bust. Patrick O'Bryant was a huge bust as well.
Patrick O'Bryant was a Toronto Raptor for a brief stint.
Oh, right. I forgot about that. But good Good reference there. Okay, now we'll just I guess we'll go through some of the relevant ones. I mean, next one, JJ Redick, very relevant.
Yeah.
Has had and still having a very good career. Thabo Cephalosha was pretty good. Ronnie Brewer, had a couple games. I don't know. He wasn't really that good, actually. Rajon Rondo at 21 to Phoenix. Obviously, he ends up in Boston. Kyle Lowry, number 24 to Memphis. He's going to come up a lot earlier than that.
Not only were the players in this draft pretty bad, but the people selecting the players were equally as bad. The talent is spread all throughout the first and second round here.
Yeah, I mean, you have some of the best players in this draft in the second round, late second round. I mean, Paul Millsap taken number 47, and he's, I mean, where do I have him in my redraft? Very high.
He's a multi-time All-Star.
Yeah.
He went 47th. That's a big mistake.
Yeah.
Can't pass up that guy.
PJ Tucker, number 35, drafted by the Raptors.
Even Steve Novak.
Yep.
Catch and shoot, 3 guys played 11 years in the league.
Daniel Boobie Gibson, number 42. But anyway, overall, to the listeners out there, overall, this is just a hot pile of garbage draft. Not a lot of talent coming from this draft. And
of course, the year that we got the number 1 pick was the worst draft class of all time.
Well, yeah, that was at the time, basically the most Raptors-y thing you could possibly have.
The Raptors were known for worse things than championships 10 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, think about it. Had we had the very next year, 07, I mean, that's Greg Oden and Kevin Durant.
We would have messed that up too. We probably would have taken Oden.
We probably would have taken Oden.
Yeah. So it's just a bad time.
It's oh my God, who would have thought? His knees.
Yeah. And then we would have been laughing at whoever took Bargnani the previous year.
Yeah. I mean, had we gone 08, I mean, that's Blake Griffin and all those guys.
The problem is not
No, sorry. Blake Griffin was 09. Sorry, I meant 08
yeah.
is Derrick Rose and Russell Westbrook and those guys.
Our luck, we probably would have gotten Rose in his...
Probably would have taken Kevin Love.
Maybe. I've ranked all the drafts from 96 through 2012. I have this one 4th last.
What is behind them?
I got 99, Jason Terry, Sean Marion, Elton Brand. Then I got Amari, Carlos Boozer, Tajon Prince, and then...
Wait, what year is that?
2002.
Right.
And then 2000, I got Jamal Crawford, Michael Redd, Hito Turkoglu.
2000 being the worst, right?
Maybe we can do a 2000 redraft. That's a funny one. That is
Well, it's just a hot pile of garbage everywhere.
Yeah, that's the creme de la creme of terrible picks.
Yes, it is. So actually, before we start into redrafting these terrible players, I have 2 interesting stats. One about Bargnani, and I actually want to talk about Bargnani a little bit before we get into the redraft. But they're basically, I did some research on Basketball Reference, just seeing how bad some of these busts were in this draft. Which would you rather hear first? My kind of interesting tidbit: Bargnani's stat or Adam Morrison's stat?
We're gonna get into let's do Adam Morrison first.
Okay,
because his career was worse.
It was worse, and it's actually more of a one-off. There's not much to say about Adam Morrison other than he was just not that good, and really not that good. In fact, so I went on Basketball Reference and I looked up out of all the lottery picks since the lottery era began. So since 1985, all top 14 picks in every draft, where does Adam Morrison rank in win shares? And the answer is 4th worst. He's the 4th worst lottery pick ever since 1985, and he's just ahead of guys that recently got drafted, actually. Josh Jackson, this guy called Nicholas Tiscavili.
I remember Tiscavili, early 2000s.
I don't really remember him. Maybe there's a reason why. And Dennis Smith Jr. Josh Jackson and Dennis Smith Jr., if they somehow manage to kind of stick on the court, maybe they end up being good enough to surpass negative win shares, because that's where they are right now.
Right.
Adam Morrison being, I believe, negative 1.7 win shares in his career. Let's look. Negative 1.4. I was wrong. But yeah, so.
Negative 1.4 win shares, and they still won 2 championships with him riding the bench.
Yeah, that's a
pretty good. Not too shabby, Adam.
Yeah, I wonder if Phil Jackson's like, Adam, doing a great job. Just you sit on that bench and you keep sitting there, and we might pull this off. Okay, coach.
Yeah, well, they pulled it off. They pulled it off twice.
Yeah. What do they even say? You know how they have special things on their rings? When they get their championship rings, sometimes they have little sayings, something that's unique to the person.
Right.
Yeah, they do. Every so often. I wonder, what did they say with Adam?
Adam's probably just said thanks.
Dude, I wonder if they even put his name in, like, nondescript player number 3.
Maybe. Bench seat number 13.
Like, their equipment manager probably had a more heartfelt message within the ring than Adam did.
I wonder if I can find Adam Morrison's ring.
Online?
Yeah, even though it's just a picture, just see what was engraved.
No, they typically only, when you look at the rings online, they typically show, like, the marquee player. You'd probably see Kobe Bryant. But anyway, R.I.P. to him, by the way.
Yeah. Bad year.
Yeah.
2020, terrible year.
Almost as bad
As this draft. Well said.
That's how bad it is. Almost as bad as 2020. Okay, so let's talk about Andrea Bargnani, because I had a similar stat for him. You talk about him being a real bust as a first overall pick, and he was. In fact, by win shares, he was, since the lottery era, again, so since 1985, 4th worst first overall pick. He's just ahead of guys like Kwame Brown and also Markelle Fultz. Markelle Fultz will probably pass him because he's kind of like doing stuff now. So
I think he's on Orlando. He's got a better system. I think he's slowly figuring it out.
He's learned how to shoot a little bit.
Yeah,
learned how to play.
Yeah,
so.
His numbers are up. Defense is better. I think he's going to pass him. He'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll probably manage to do something and get into those positives there.
You got to think, though, how did Markelle end up getting drafted where he did given the jump shot?
Because he was a good shooter in Washington when, like, Washington State University.
How does that happen?
Well, he's a unique case. I mean, if you're talking about him, like, reports say that, like, he had a weird injury with his shoulder, and then, unbeknownst to the entire team, he and some shooting trainer just changed the shot. And also, he got the shooting yips. He definitely got the shooting yips.
Yeah, it's got to be a little mental there.
Yeah, 100%. But yeah, Andrea Bargnani, 4th worst, likely going to be 3rd worst by win shares. And
you know what's incredible with that? If you actually pull back and you look at Bargnani's stats without knowing who it is, you're looking at this guy and you're going, wow, you know what? Pretty decent career.
Well, okay, actually, I want to get into that because obviously when you think about Andrea, you think of him being a bust. And he was a bust. But people forget how, what's the word I'm looking for? How promising the start of his career was. It legitimately was promising.
Right, because the level of bust is linked heavily to the level of expectation.
That is true.
That's the issue. If he went 2nd round, this would have been a phenomenal steal.
Yeah, but, I mean, I guess with that talent, and that potential, he was never going to be a 2nd round pick. Who knows? But point is, like, he was legitimately a promising player. His first year was that year when we got back into the playoffs. It was our first year with Brian Colangelo. That 016 was really fun with, like, Anthony Parker, Jorge Garbajosa, who came over from Europe. TJ Ford, Jose Calderon had that PG platoon.
Yeah.
And in his first year, he put up 11.6 points in 25 minutes off the bench. We made the playoffs. We were a little spunky. We lost to the Vince Carter and Jason Kidd Nets in 6 games in the playoffs that year.
Yeah, we got torched.
And
Vince torched the Raptors that year.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't like we were spunky, but we weren't ready. And then year 2, he had his worst year. Actually, he had the sophomore slump completely. Still made the playoffs. Year 3, another good year. 15 points per game, 41% shooting from 3 on 3.7 attempts. Not bad. Year 4 was his best year, where he went 17.2 points per game on 47% from the field and 37% from 3. And also had his career high in 6.2 rebounds. So, like, started off pretty good. He's not the star that you wanted, but, like, he started off looking promising. But then right after that, that's when things started going bad.
Well, okay, so Bosch leaves that year.
Bosch leaves right after that year. And then you look at our team's success. Right after Bosch's leave, the year right before Bosch left, we were 40 and 42. Obviously, if you remember, we struggled down the stretch because Bosch broke his face.
Yeah. Yeah, he sat some games out while that face healed.
Yeah. And then, so our first year without Bosch obviously was going to be rough, but 22 and 60 first year, 23 and 43 second year.
22 and 60 with Bargnani averaging 21 a game and pushing for an all-star spot.
Right.
Like, that shows you that when you look at this without context, you're really not getting the full scope of what these stats mean and why he's considered such a bust.
No, exactly. He was a completely empty stats guy.
Yeah.
Once he was the main guy, he started putting up 20 PPG, which, like, anytime you look at stats and you see 20 points per game, is going to get you noticed. But there was nothing else. And also, he never got rebounds. He was I mean, not a very winning player. And it bears out in the fact that the year that Bargnani finally left, we traded him partway through the year to the Knicks in 2013-14. We went 48-34. That was the random year we were trying to tank, and suddenly, out of nowhere, like, we ended up making the playoffs.
He got no rebounds because he was soft. He was never in the paint. I can believe it. James Dolan traded for Andrea Bargnani.
Yeah.
Like,
We
obviously.
fleeced them in that trade.
Yeah,
I
we
mean,
really did.
relatively speaking, we got Steve Novak, Marcus Camby, Quentin Richardson, but a 2016 first-round pick, and some second-round picks that never worked out, but that first-round pick ended up being very important because that was Jakob Poeltl, who was good enough that enabled the Raptors to trade him as part of the Kawhi Leonard trade instead of a guy like OG Anunoby or Siakam.
Are you saying that the Toronto Raptor fan base has James Dolan to thank for the NBA championship?
Well, I was kind of implying that maybe they have a little bit of Andrea Bargnani to thank for that. At least he managed to
So if
bear
Andrea
some fruit.
Bargnani was any better, we wouldn't have been able to make that trade.
It was our destiny for him to be so bad that we needed to make a fleece the Knicks into a trade,
But
that
not
allowed
bad
us
enough to where that we couldn't acquire that 2016
exactly.
pick.
He was as good as he needed to be to
Yeah.
eventually lead us to a championship by leaving. But
That would make for a great plaque.
you left and we were better. But literally,
You were exactly as bad as we needed you to be.
yeah, I mean, literally, I guess all that you can say about Andrea is the fact that the best thing that ever happened to the team was him leaving. And that all you really need to say about the effect that he had.
Yeah, it just didn't work out in the NBA. I mean, he was good in Italy, obviously, because he went first overall and he was highly touted, but the game just didn't transition.
Yeah.
Too physical, too fast, couldn't keep up. It wasn't like he was a knockdown three-point shooter. He had a couple
You mean
good years.
the NBA was too physical and too fast?
Yeah.
He was not too physical and too
No,
fast.
no. His
was-
issue wasn't that he was too good. It was that he was not good enough.
Yeah.
In case I wasn't clear, the issue with Bargnani wasn't he was too talented. He didn't adapt too well.
Yeah. No. Yeah, so that's all I really have to say about Andrea. He'll still be drafted in this draft, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, he will.
Okay, well, you want to just get into the redraft then?
You want to do number one? You want me to take it?
I'll do number one because I have an interesting. I'll do number one because I have something interesting on this guy I'm going to take.
All right, go for it.
I'm going to take Lamarcus Aldridge. I assume that's who you had number one as well?
It is.
Yeah, Lamarcus Aldridge. Like, there's nothing not to like about the guy. Just consistent throughout his career, 19-8, almost every single season. Like, basically 19-8. He's doing this, in fact, in his 14th season, he's still averaging 19-8. So, tremendously consistent. I mean, he doesn't reach a peak that a lot of other star players can reach, but very high floor, I should say. I mean, you know what you're getting with him. 7-time All-Star, 5-time All-NBA player. I actually have another little interesting stat for you. So, do you know how many players averaged at least 18.5 points per game and 7 rebounds per game in their 14th year or higher?
How many players? I got to think it's a small list. Maybe 5.
Close. 8. But it's a list that you'd like to be on. So here are the other players that in their 14th year or more have averaged at least 18.5 points and 7 rebounds. Karl Malone did it 5 times. LeBron James, 4 times so far. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Moses Malone, Pau Gasol did it once. Hakeem Olajuwon did it once. Shaq did it once. Artis Gilmore, a random guy who I looked it up at the time. I believe he was like a 7th round pick back in the day when they had a lot of rounds. I think he played in the 80s. I'd have to look again.
That's crazy that the NBA had more rounds when there was less teams.
Fewer teams. I think that's the proper vernacular, but you're right. If you listen to basketball historians,
Unbelievable.
if you listen to basketball historians,
I'm sorry I'm not the Shakespearean scholar I should have been.
no, you definitely are not. Can you let me finish my sentence? If you listen to basketball historians, like some of these drafts in the NBA draft when they got way down, I mean, they'd be drafting it's kind of like the MLB draft. And they started drafting sons of people they knew.
Right.
You knew, or just a random college kid from a local area. It's hey,
The local baker.
yeah, it's local college kid, come out and try out for the team. You're never going to make it. But yeah, look, other than Artis Gilmore, who's not really talked about, everyone else on there, great guy to be around.
Yeah, good list. I mean, I think the biggest testament to his career is what he's still doing.
Yeah, exactly.
13 years of at least 17-7. His sophomore year was 18-8, and then he never looked back, putting up basically the same numbers. He had a bit of a peak, 2013, 2014 with the stats wise, but yeah, super solid. You know what you're gonna get, and I think it's kind of unclear when he's gonna stop producing. Like his numbers aren't really taking a back seat.
Body. Like, he's a big body. He never really relied on his pure athleticism that much. He can shoot, obviously, and as the NBA gets smaller, I mean, fewer and fewer guys are going to be able to get a hand up on his shot. I could see him playing for a few more years, definitely, and still contributing. I think he's probably a type of guy who you'll see down the line end of bench, like ring chasing, you know?
Could be. Not a huge ego guy either, so I could see him taking a lesser role and continuing his career.
No, not a huge ego guy. I think I remember, and I could be wrong, but I think I remember reading some stuff about when Damian Lillard was starting to come on at the end of his Portland tenure, Lamarcus's Portland tenure, that is. He wasn't exactly like enthralled by that development, but yeah, solid guy to have around.
1,000 career games, he's played in 962 of them.
Yeah,
I'm looking at games played versus games finished here, and every season, man, he's playing all the games he started.
Yeah,
it's
durable.
Crazy.
And we'll see him in the Hall of Fame someday. So
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
all right,
I think
pick number
so.
2.
Yep, you go.
Kyle Lowry. Is that what you got?
Yeah, that's who I had as well.
I mean, Kyle, similar story to Aldridge later in the years, but people forget that Kyle's start to his career was rough.
Bad.
Really bad, yeah. I mean,
and rocky, because
kudos to Kyle for sticking through that and finding his way as a starting point guard on a championship team.
Well, it was one of the reasons why it was rocky was because he had all that spunk that you still see, but not the skill that he displays now.
Yeah.
He was basically just a loudmouth bad player.
All bulldog without the finesse to back it up early on. Memphis years were rough.
Yeah.
Houston years, putting up better numbers, but still nothing special.
Well, the Houston years was what attracted him to Toronto, because he became, like, I guess, a quote-unquote analytics darling in his Houston years. One of the reasons why the Raptors got him was because in a lot of advanced analytics, and, like, I don't really know what they were at the time, but, like, this is literally just me listening to other NBA reporters talk anecdotally. A lot of advanced analytics suggested that he had the potential to be a top 10 point guard. That's why we targeted him, and that is obviously borne fruit. But yeah, his first few years in the league, very rocky. I mean, I guess he was a guy like bad situation, right? I mean,
you can compare him to Chauncey Billups, right?
That's one of his biggest comparables.
Yeah,
like,
I mean, not only from the way his career turned out, but the way his game is, right? Not a ton of athleticism, not a ton of finesse in his game, but found a niche, found a team with good players around him to support his game.
Yeah.
What are you laughing at? You smiling at something? You got something?
Yeah, well, you're saying not a lot of athleticism. Zach Lowe likes to say his two greatest NBA skills are his mind and his butt.
For Lowry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
that's
smart, heady player. Also a big booty to keep people off him.
Low center of gravity.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's a bowling ball.
Oh, yeah.
You know, like, one of the things that the Raptors are successful at, and if you watch enough Raptors games, you'll see we actively seek these matchups where, you know how a lot of teams will do like the 1-5 pick and the 1-5 pick and roll, hope that they switch the point guard onto the 5, and they'll dump it into the 5 for an easy layup. The Raptors are happy to switch that, because Kyle Lowry, you try to back that guy down, it is exceptionally hard, even for a big guy like a 7-footer. He's not moving,
right?
Or he'll take a stupid charge,
right?
Like, that will probably pisses players off to no end.
Yeah, Kyle, great taking charges. Maybe the all-time great.
I don't even know how many times he's led the league.
Do they track that? They must track that stat. Charges taken.
Yeah. He leads the league in charges taken.
Yeah.
Well, prior to the bubble starting, he is tied for first.
I gotta knock Lowry for a little bit here, because he went number 2 in this draft, but...
You mean number 2 in this redraft?
Sorry, number 2 in this redraft. First half of his career, nothing much. Really came to light in Toronto. Struggled for the first few years in the playoffs. with DeMar. Eventually, obviously, traded for Kawhi. He had some big games. Lowry did during that year. They won the chip, and he's having a great year this year as well. But on draft night, the little blurb on the Kyle Lowry draft page was, Gym rat, but he doesn't shoot the ball.
Well, he didn't.
I know, but look at the player he became. He became a player who had the confidence to go 1 of 17 and then shoot one more time to go 1 of 18.
Yeah. I mean, he never lacked in confidence, but I mean, if you look at that played out. I mean, if you look at his 3-point percentage in his second full year, he shot 25%. Third year, 25%. Fourth year, 27%. Like,
it's poor.
Yeah, he wasn't very good. But I mean, he's a much more solid 3-point shooter now.
Best Raptor point guard all time?
Best Raptor player all time over the course of his career.
I would strongly disagree.
Really?
Is that based on like cumulative success? It's obviously
just
not talent.
No, of course not talent. I didn't say most talented. I just said best Raptor ever over the course of his career. I think like he's played a lot of years here and he's had tremendous team success and he's generally been very, very good as a player himself. I think you mix that all together and that equals best Raptor of all time. Obviously, the talent level, if you look at most talented Raptors, Kawhi, Vince, Tracy,
Bosh. Maybe even Stoudemire.
Nah.
Maybe even DeMar. From just talent alone, I think talent alone, DeMar might be better than Lowry.
Well, he doesn't put it up in the statistical categories other than points. I mean, if we're getting into the DeMar and Kyle-led Raptors, I mean, DeMar, there's a reason why he's not well-liked by any analytics community, and it's because he's not very efficient, and there's a lot of things that played out where, like, he's constantly negative in, like, plus-minus, right? His lineups. Let me finish. His lineups. Like if you look at our starters, remember the common storyline for Raptors throughout was the starters would not play to the lead, and then our bench would always take over. Well, Lowry was often playing with those bench lineups, and those Lowry plus bench lineups were always good. Lowry was always the engine that made the Raptors run. DeMar was good in his own right, but there's a reason why DeMar is a controversial player. And because there's a lot of things he doesn't do well, doesn't defend well, doesn't shoot efficiently. Like he's becoming a better playmaker, but that developed over time. I think Lowry's a better all-around player. The only thing that DeMar can do better is score.
He might be better overall player. I'm not sure if that's the same as saying more talented. I mean, like DeMar's mid-range game just doesn't translate to today's NBA game, but you gotta have a lot of talent to hit a mid-range game. It's the hardest shot to have.
Okay, fine.
It's generally always guarded. It's usually off balance.
But where do you draw the line between talent and production, right? Like,
I mean, even this year for the Spurs, like, points per game is good. His shooting percentage is just unbelievably good, like career high good. He went on a stretch when he was shooting like 60% from the field while averaging like 28 a game for them.
Well, he can definitely score. He can put the ball in the basket.
I do like DeMar. I have a soft spot for him because like it didn't work out because he got sandbag traded out for Kawhi, even though you got to do that trade every time. But he gave it all here. We had some good runs. We ran into LeBron every year, which was tough. But you know, hopefully. And
DeMar could never even guard his guy. I mean, like
his guy was LeBron.
No, it wasn't. They never even bothered putting. They would never put DeMar on LeBron if they could help it. I mean, if you want to talk about who he was guarding in the last year, where we really thought we could maybe beat the Cavs, he was guarding Kyle Korver, and they sent him through a ton of screens, and Kyle Korver killed us.
But that's a horrible matchup for DeMar, to have to chase Korver around.
Guy can't defend, okay? He's pitch and toed as hell. Like, we know DeMar is a turnstile defender, and that's one of the reasons why he's bad. I mean, not as good. Sorry, he's not bad. He's a good player. But he's not as good as, like, some other guys. And I think Kyle's a better player, just in general. But we're not talking about that. I'll just, we'll continue with the redraft. We got off topic here. I'll go number 3. And I am going to take...
Charlotte. Charlotte is on the board.
That is right. Charlotte's on the board. And instead of taking Adam Morrison, I will take Rajon Rondo. Rajon, kind of like the opposite of Kyle. Instead of sucking at the start and becoming, peaking in his later years, Rajon was really good right from the beginning. I mean, he was part of those really good Boston teams, won championship. He was the starting point guard on a championship team. Can't take that away from him. Tough as nails guy, stat stuffer, great playmaker. I mean, he was putting up those huge triple-double, like, monstrous games where it's like 17 points, 18 rebounds, 20 assists, that he was doing that before Russell was doing that, right?
Yeah,
Russell
for sure.
took it to another level, like a slight another level, but I think people forget a little bit because of what Rajon has become since. He's had some tumultuous times in Dallas, had a little run in New Orleans with throwing lobs to Anthony Davis, but it really peaked early with Boston, and, you know, now it's just kind of like running its course. I think the NBA has surpassed him because he can't really shoot.
I mean, he's already been in the league a long time, so the fact that it's kind of slowing down now is okay. But kudos to him for getting out of the gate early and being put into a pretty tough position. I mean, he was expected to run the offense for Garnett, Pierce, Allen, with Doc Rivers coaching them.
Right. Well, they had, like, I mean, if we're talking about running the offense, obviously the point guard, he did a lot of that. But down the stretch, I mean, it was Paul Pierce.
But Rajon Rondo, one of the best floor generals of all time. All time.
He was good.
I don't
know if you had to do rankings. I mean, I don't know where he ranked. He was a really good player, really good point guard.
I don't think anybody can just jump in and facilitate to 3 Hall of Famers the way he ran that offense. There's better point guards than Rajon Rondo, but as far as that fit with that team, I don't know if you could have found a better fit than Rondo on that Boston team.
Okay, good point. I'll agree with that. Yeah. And one thing he was really good early, which, I mean, he kind of like really stopped trying later on, but great defender early on.
Yeah.
And it makes sense how long he is, his athleticism, tough as nails guy as well.
Remember that one play against Orlando when he dove for the ball?
I wasn't against Orlando. That was I think I know what you're talking about.
I thought it was Jason Williams. He dove in the opposition's paint and his elbow dislocated.
No, dude. How do you forget that this was against Miami Heat in the playoffs? Dwayne Wade pushed him as they're going for a loose ball, 50-50 ball, and he dislocated his elbow.
Was it Dwayne Wade? Maybe
it was Dwayne Wade. It was 100% Dwayne Wade. I remember this very vividly.
Yeah, it was gross. But, like, he didn't miss a game. He was back.
No, he was back, yeah. Tough as nails guy. Also, little trivia for you guys. Tremendous Connect 4 player.
Really?
Yeah, he's never lost a game in Connect 4, as he boasts.
How would you know that?
It's something if you read enough NBA stuff, it's just something that comes up. He's just randomly, like, apparently a Connect 4 mastermind.
Every single year, I try and sneaky draft Rondo into my fantasy draft.
Well, he's great.
But even now, I'm still trying to. He didn't really pan out for me this year, but
he'll be in the league again next year. He's going to be playing for a few more years, I'm sure.
I'll get him again. Every year that goes by, I can get him one round later.
Yeah.
Still get him though.
Yeah. Okay. Well, enough on Rajon. You're number 4. Who are you taking?
Okay, so I actually had Rajon 4, so I'm gonna go with my number 3 pick. I got Millsap.
Really, Millsap number 3.
Yeah, I mean over Rajon.
I'd Millsap a little lower, but I don't hate the pick. Go ahead.
Millsap, he's kind of like baby Aldridge.
Okay. Yeah.
Similar games, similar consistency. Numbers weren't as high as far as a peak, but he had a good run on that Atlanta team with Jeff Teague and Joe Johnson, DeMar Carroll. Those were 60-win regular season teams.
He's good in Denver now. He was good in Utah. He's been good everywhere he goes. Personally, for me, I think maybe a more accurate comparison is he's like a big man version of Kyle Lowry. I don't know. He's just a winning player, makes all the plays you'd want. It's not necessarily about what he shows on the your traditional box score stat line, although he does that too. I mean, he can put in points, get rebounds, and shoot the ball really well. But he's just a good player to have on your team. He can defend well.
He's professional. You never hear of anything off the court, on the court. He'll fit into any system. Clearly, because he's been on 3 teams and had success everywhere.
I feel like those second rounders, when you hit on them, it's almost better because of how humble they are as being second rounders, and they were never highly touted. It's like they'll just go in there and whatever you need, I'll do it.
Right. Yeah.
But Paul was definitely one of those guys. Great player. Nothing really else to say. Just
4-time consecutive All-Star.
He's made so many playoffs as well. He's been on. I'd have to check. Let me check.
I got it right here. Hold on, let me pull it up.
Yeah, he's made so many different playoff.
10
playoff seasons.
10 playoffs.
Yeah, that's out of 14 years. So, and that's not including this year, where his 14th year. So, 11.
Good for him.
Yeah, exactly.
Paul Millsap, good pick.
Yeah. Okay, so I got number 5, and I'm gonna take the guy I had number 4, but I'm gonna take.
So you had 2 guys over Millsap?
Yes.
All right. Let's hear it.
Brandon Roy.
Oh, okay. All right.
He's the biggest what if in this draft to me. He's the most talented player, I think, bar none.
He might be the biggest what if in NBA history.
Len Bias might be.
Yeah, but
because he never even played. He died right away.
Yeah, but like we saw what Roy was becoming.
Yeah, but I mean that means like
Len Bias could have played 10 NBA games and been a bust immediately.
Well, by all accounts, he was amazing. But
yeah, well, so like they could say the same thing
fair
about
enough,
Odin
whatever.
and Bargnani and Kwame Brown. Like you got to show before we can give you the
okay.
accolades.
Fair enough. Point is, like, huge what if. Look, when he came in, like, I mean, talk about the fact that he came in and right away he was good, and I mean really good. Wins Rookie of the Year his first year, then he goes All-Star, hurt and done. Like, his basketball reference page is ridiculous. He's made an All-NBA second team in 08-09, All-NBA third team in 2009-2010, and then he's done. And he tried in Minnesota for a bit.
Yeah.
And those knees, they just never held up. And the thing is that teams knew going in that he had bad knees. So, like, I don't know. If I'm a team drafting him, maybe there's a way to stem the progression of his knee injuries. I mean, it didn't help that he played like 38 minutes per game.
Yeah.
And I can
They
understand.
wrote him.
Oh, yeah. Well, he was amazing.
You could have done one of two things if you're going to draft him. One, you cross your fingers and hope for the best, that his knee injuries are behind him. Or two, you got to start with the load management. Mm-hmm. And no back
that wasn't a thing. That wasn't a thing back then.
It wasn't a thing, but knowing what you have in this guy with his issues, maybe that's the guy who starts it.
If he's drafted today, he's load managed.
If he's drafted today, he probably never sees more than 60 games regular season. Ever. Yeah.
Especially when he establishes how good he is, right?
Yeah.
Like, if you have an All-NBA talent, but you know he has injury issues, then you give him the Kawhi treatment. It's like, hey, man, you're going to be just chilling.
Brandon Roy was the man.
He was. He was a baller, too. He kind of actually reminds me of, like, Damian Lillard a little bit with his big shots and just his attitude.
Yeah, for sure.
But, yeah.
Tough as nails, too bad, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think any time when you're the fifth pick and you can get the most talented player in the draft, like you have an opportunity for that, just go for it. And maybe in an alternate universe, which is what I'm pretending here, maybe it works out a little bit better.
So here's the thing. I actually had Brandon Roy going 8th to Houston, and here is why. That 07 Houston team had 25 PPG Tracy McGrady,
right?
Had 25 and 9 Yao, and the supporting cast was Rafer Alston, Shane Battier, Dikembe Mutombo, Juwan Howard. They ended up losing to the Jazz in the first round, but if you can give that team 2-3 years of early Brandon Roy.
They lost to Darren Williams in Jazz there. They did.
Darren Williams was a bad man when he came to the league.
Another guy
who flamed hot early and then kind of disappeared.
I think the second you get to the Nets, something happens to you, and then just
something about the Nets. Yeah, I don't know what it is.
Like,
but yeah,
I mean, we don't have to talk about Kyrie and what I think their future is, but I think Nets got some bad juju there.
Bad juju with bad players.
They take good players past their prime and way
Kevin
over.
Garnett, Paul Pierce played for the Nets.
Yeah, they beat us in the first round.
So anyway, I had Roy going to Houston because I think that would have been a good pairing, but obviously
I took him first. You think you take these redrafts a little different than I do. I just kind of think of the player. I don't really consider too much the team. You like to consider the team a little bit more.
A little bit, gives another side to it. You would have been funny with that Houston pick though, is that Tracy and Yao both had basically career-ending injuries. All three of these guys probably would have exited the league at the same time.
Yeah, they would have had 2 really good years, and then suddenly they're all gone.
Yeah, all at once.
Like, Daryl Morey's like, what happened?
Where'd they go? Oh, man, that was quick.
Yeah,
oh, well, time to rebuild.
But yeah, that would have been a really good team. But, c'est la vie. Okay, so you're now number 6.
Okay, so
let's try to make these a little quicker.
I got JJ Redick.
Yeah. Because for the record, I mean, after the next couple picks, I think, well, JJ, you just took him number 6. I actually had him number 6. After the next guy, I think there's a pretty precipitous drop-off. But
I mean, I would say after Rondo.
Well, yeah, there's tiers of drop-offs.
Right.
But yeah, there's a even bigger one where like no longer are you talking about guys who are like starters really on a good team.
I mean, Redick's still in the league, still putting up the same numbers as you always have with the same game. You know what you're going to get basically for the whole career. He's kind of who'd you pick, Redick or Kyle Korver? You had to pick one.
Probably Redick.
Yeah, I think so too. something that is surprising about Redick, known for a 3-point knockdown guy, 14th all time, tied with LeBron and J.R. Smith.
In total threes?
Yeah, total.
Well, yeah, because
he'd be a little higher.
Well, he's a career 40% 3-point shooter. You got to look at the rate. I mean, if you look at the start of his career, right? I mean, he started with Orlando. Even when Orlando made the finals in that 09 team, he wasn't playing. It was only later in his career Orlando, then he was traded to the Bucks, and then it wasn't really until he got to like the Clippers where he started like becoming well known. Look, he's a guy. He's terrifying. He's one of those guys where like I think a good way to tell how good a player is how do you feel when they have the ball or when they're on the court. And when JJ Redick has the ball and he's about to shoot in a tight like playoff game, for example, I am fucking terrified. Like during that Raptors,
assuming you're on the other side. Yeah.
During the Raptors second round series against Philly, where like obviously Kawhi made that shot, but JJ had a really good series and he was making shots. Like anytime he let it fly, I'm like, oh my god, no! Like give it to someone else. Make Embiid shoot a stupid 3-point shot. Right. Make Ben Simmons try to do something in a clogged lane.
His release is so automatic too.
Yeah.
Good pick at 5. Or no, what pick are we on here? It's not 5.
That was 6.
Yeah, even better pick at 6.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I got nothing else to say about JJ Redick.
I have a funny little tidbit, I guess, about JJ Redick. You know how like you hear a lot of NBA players who I get up at 3 a.m. to go work out.
Right.
Like I get up stupid early and I work out for 5 hours or something. JJ is like, I listen to. He has like the Ringer podcast and he's pretty personable. I listened to him on the Low Post, actually. He talks like about a shooting regimen because he has obviously a very specific one. You don't become a great shooter by accident. But he's like, yeah, I'm in the gym by 9 every day. And Zach's like, I appreciate the fact that you get there at a normal hour.
Yeah.
So I get there at 9, I do my thing until like noon or something, like do a normal workout. I'm just there and I work when I get there. I'm not like... He doesn't have to get up at 5 or 3 a.m. to do it.
I mean, like, I'm hearing these Kobe Bryant stories where he's, like, in the gym turning the lights on.
He was a freak.
But, like, what... I don't understand. Like, everybody has basically the same amount of stuff to do during the day as an NBA player. Why did Kobe feel the need to get there at 3? Like, what did he do? So, say his workout was done by 6. What is he doing from 6 in the morning till 10? What's he doing?
Working out again? I don't know.
I guess. Maybe Kobe's a bad example.
Kobe was a legendary just workaholic freak. I mean, he never slept, right? Like, they had trainers. You hear about, like, stories where they had just had trainers on hand, and they get a text at 4 a.m. It's like, hey, man, going in. Come with me. Like,
how many people, like, lots of people, celebrities, athletes, like, lots of people say, oh, I wake up at the crack of dawn, I start my day with a protein shake and a lift. How many of these guys are lying?
I don't think a lot, because ultimately... I mean, if you're looking at the celebrity lifestyle, eventually they're going to have to film it to show how cool they are. I don't know.
They can do it for one day. I don't know.
Yeah, they can do it for one day. I know, like, Mark Wahlberg does that. Like, Mark Wahlberg literally, like, gets...
But Mark Wahlberg's got, like, a bunch of kids, like, drive them to school. Like, I've seen those videos, too. Like, I get it if you got to be up for a certain time. But, like...
Mike Tyson apparently gets up at 5 every morning these days.
Iron Mike?
Yeah.
Well, Iron Mike's training for a comeback.
Well, he is now.
Yeah, man.
Okay, well, I mean, this podcast isn't about celebrities and getting up early. So, let's just continue.
All right, let's go.
So number 7, and I'm going to take Rudy Gay. And look, he's had a pretty good career, but like a lot of these types of players, it hasn't been what teams hoped. And this is a kind of a point I want to make, and is that Rudy Gay is the exact type of guy, and there's other guys in the league, like Andrew Wiggins, Jeff Green, where teams are always going to fall in love with these types of players, and they're always going to reach for these types of players. It's the small forwards, the wings that are about 6'8"-ish, between 6'6", 6'8"-ish, highly athletic, have shown they can shoot a little bit, and they can get buckets. Because at the end of the day, like, those are the guys that can really make or break your team. Sometimes they turn into a Rudy Gay, Andrew Wiggins, Jeff Green. Like I said, not really working out. Like, they're going to be solid role players to below average starters if they're too ball dominant, but they're still good players. But sometimes they also turn into like Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, LeBron James. I mean, LeBron was a different example.
Yeah,
but
no, I see what you're saying. Like, he has a
if
career...
they pop, the point is, like, if they pop, it's amazing. It's franchise changing to get this type of player who becomes good. The problem is that, like, some of them don't become good. And Rudy Gay is the type that just, one of the types of guys who just didn't exactly pan out.
It didn't pan out, and, like, he's an empty numbers guy. Like, if I had to ask you, what is the one defining moment of Rudy Gay's career, could you come up with anything? I can't.
I can, yes.
You're struggling.
Yeah, I mean, I think of, and it's not even necessarily something he did. It's actually something like a fan posted. Like, you know how Rudy, just before he got to Toronto, he had like a little moment where he hit a string of game-winning shots. And he always went to that right baseline block. He would always get the ball at the top of the key, run to the right baseline, and hit about like a 12 to 15 footer, kind of fading away or something contested. But he was good enough athletic to go over, and that was a shot. Yeah. He had a bunch of game-winning shots. There's actually, it's against the Raptors too. Against the Raptors, it's a Raptors fan with a grainy cell phone video down the stretch, and like you see he's in the stands. You're like, no, not Rudy, don't give it to him. And then like he makes it, and he's like, no, you fucking asshole. Like, and I think that's honestly what I think of. Like that's his most memorable moment. It's got to be.
Yeah, I mean that's sad for the amount of years he's played. For that to be his go-to moment.
Yeah, I mean,
but that's the point. That's what we're trying to say about Rudy Gay. It's like you look at the numbers and you go, holy smokes, who is this guy? And then you look at the results and you're like, nothing really happened.
Well, he's another guy where on 2 occasions his team was better off without him. When Memphis traded him away to Toronto, they immediately became better because you put the ball in other people's hands, like Marc Gasol and Mike Conley.
Like if he was somewhat useful, that team with Mayo, Randolph, Gasol, Conley should have been, and Rudy Gay should have been dominant.
You mean if he was like what they hoped he would become?
Yeah.
Yeah, but he wasn't that, right? I mean, with Toronto as well. He started off hot, but again, we were better off without him ultimately. The season we traded him, it was the same season we traded Bargnani, the season we traded him, we made the playoffs. We started getting better because we started giving the ball to DeMar, who at the time was better than Rudy, and we gave the ball more to Kyle and other guys, and just we also became a more modern offense, like just spreading the floor a little bit more. And
like to sum it up, the problem with Rudy Gay is that his offense does not come in the flow of your team's offense.
No, it's I got to get my buckets kind of offense.
Well, it's also give it to Rudy and like let's see if he can get a bucket on his own.
And there's very few players who have been good enough at that bucket getting to warrant that type of treatment. Carmelo Anthony being one of them, prime Carmelo.
Yeah, I mean, that list is very small. The list of guys who you can just dump it down, high block, and let them get a bucket, it's a tiny single-digit list.
Yeah, but, I mean, when you get that guy, it's awesome, but...
Interesting, though, that DeMar's gameplay is similar, and yet people have the similar criticisms about DeMar.
Yeah, because I think ultimately they're kind of similar players.
Does that mean that the mid-range ISO game is extinct, or should be?
Well,
because you look at guys like Kobe and Jordan, they thrived in the mid-range ISO game.
It's a different game. I'll say this: the mid-range game is still exceptionally important if you can hit it efficiently, and if you get to the playoffs and you see how teams defend because they know what the efficient shots are, which are corner threes and layups and at the basket attacks. Teams will actively give you decently open mid-range shots. So if you can hit them, then that's important. I think it's important to be able to have a guy who can hit mid-range shots, but it shouldn't be something that you actively always search for. It should be something in your arsenal.
And I mean, in the playoffs, the game slows down. It's more half court.
Exactly.
You're going to need to get somebody who's going to get you a bucket.
Right.
Yeah.
And oftentimes, like when you have good defenses and they took away the three and there's no way you're getting to the rim, it's down the end of the shot clock, you just got to rise up and hit a mid-ranger. Going back to the Raptors example, we're not winning a championship if Kawhi Leonard doesn't hit just a ton of huge mid-range shots.
But Kawhi's one of those guys. He's one of those sort of top 10 guys who you can just give him the ball in mid-range.
It's very useful if you can do it well.
Right.
But if you can't do it well and you just take a bunch, then it's terrible.
Which is interesting because guys who can't do it well, there's so many examples of them who don't change their game or are not asked to change their game, but they just continue to beat down that mid-range game.
Yeah, well, some guys get ingrained in their ways, like it's just...
Rudy Gay, ingrained in his ways.
Yeah, but, I mean, he kind of saw where it was going, took pay cuts, started taking pay cuts, and...
Draft day, he was compared to Charlie V. I thought that was weird. That didn't really...
That's a weird...
Yeah. I mean, lanky, slasher, can shoot the three.
Yeah, but that was never even Charlie V. He could shoot the three, but he wasn't... Charlie V was a 4. He wasn't a 3. Rudy Gay was drafted as a 3, and he's always been a 3 up until this point where he's now kind of a small ball 4. I
didn't make the comparison. I'm just messing with you.
I know you didn't. But anyway,
all right,
way too much on Rudy Gay.
Next pick?
Yeah, you're number 8.
Number 8, I'm going with PJ Tucker.
Okay. Why do you say so? Like
Because at this point, like I think there's a few guys you can probably.
you had
put
like
at
an
this-
inflection there, as if like you
I
weren't
know.
sure.
Yeah, as if I just guessed. As I'm looking at this chart, like I just guessed right now. I did
feel
have
like-
him slotted around here. So
Do you think that's how Rob Babcock drafted guys?
Babcock? Yeah, probably.
I'll take Rafael Rougeau.
Yeah, he probably like goes to some guy in the back. Who's left? Who? Oh, that. Okay, yeah, let's go with him. All right, we're gonna go with this guy.
Joey Graham.
Yeah,
That's a guy, right?
yeah.
Right.
He's got a brother, Jack too. Okay, yeah, I like
Yeah.
that guy. Let's go with him. No, PJ Tucker. Like, yeah, there's a big drop off here, but still in the league, still playing on contenders. Lockdown defender. Numbers nothing special, but he can hit a corner three if you need him to. Smart player, kind of like a Tony Allen.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a good pick.
Superstar role player. Like when you think about it, he's just your perfect glue guy.
I think this begs the question though: is the on-ball defender useful? Because a lot of these on-ball defender guys are asked to guard the opposing superstar scorer, but at the same time, these guys are always getting their numbers. It's never like you put PJ Tucker on somebody and they lock him down.
Well, they do a pretty good job. I mean, if you don't have a good on-ball defender, then those guys are going to feast. I think I kind of surprised you bring up this point. Of course, it's important. You need a good defender to guard someone. It's also important to have help defenders.
No, because my argument is that defense is all about team defense. I don't think having one individual lockdown defender is going to help.
Oh.
There was lockdown defenders during Kobe's time, during Jordan's time, during Tracy's time, and Melo's time. They all got their numbers, no matter who was on them. That's what I'm saying. Is the one lockdown defender really useful? Because 101, these guys are going to get buckets on you.
Yeah, but you might get them fewer buckets. You might give them a hard time. I mean,
That's what I'm saying. It was never really noted. Like, oh, tonight it's PJ Tucker against Carmelo Anthony. Last time he was held Carmelo to 8 points.
well, look at you brought him up earlier. Look at Tony Allen. He could never shoot. He could never really do anything offensively. His sheer purpose was to defend, and he was tremendously successful and important for that grit and grind team at defending, taking the best wing player and just locking him down.
Right, but Memphis was a generally gritty defensive team.
That's true. I mean, if you have that defensive identity, but it helps to have a great team defense, but it starts with the guy who's guarding the guy. If you want to stop a star player, it starts with the guy who's initially guarding him, and then it works down from there.
I guess. Well, I shouldn't be arguing this point because I did just draft PJ Tucker.
Yeah, you're the type of guy you draft him,
pick
and
my
then you're
pick,
like,
and then I trash him immediately.
yeah, you take him, and it's like, but is he really that good? And it's like, I don't know, man. You took him. You tell me.
Yeah, I mean, that goes in line with this draft. I don't know who you're going to take next, but whoever it is, he's not that good either. So
Okay,
let's give
well,
it.
number 9, I'll take Andrea Bargnani at this point, actually.
Yeah, fair. I had him 10.
Okay, well, yeah, so around this area. I think under different circumstances, like in an alternate universe, I think he could work out if you just kind of accept who he is and maybe develop some of his strengths more. I don't know. I mean, maybe you give up the fact that he's the next Dirk, and so you're like, hey, this is a guy who's got a pretty sweet stroke.
But I can't even point to one thing he was good at.
Oh no, he was ultimately terrible decision maker. I don't know. I mean, the Raptors were also a trash franchise at the time, and I don't think it served him well to start on a poor infrastructure that we had. The Raptors were just starting to be kind of successful. Like Brian Colangelo, although like some of the things he did got trashed. Like he was good at laying foundations to what Masai took over and became. Right? I mean, he was the one that got Kyle Lowry, for example. He drafted DeMar DeRozan.
That's true. He did get Kyle Lowry. However, at that time when Colangelo was debating getting Kyle Lowry, we were also debating trading for Steve Nash.
Well, yeah. I mean, no one bats 1,000 as a GM.
No.
And some people bat a lot lower than that.
That would have been terrible. He offered Nash 3 years, $36 million, which is 10 more than the Lakers ended up signing him for.
But he also has
He then played 65 games for the Lakers and then retired.
sometimes the best moves are the ones that you don't make.
Said.
Or, I mean, that don't get made for you, because he would have definitely made that move. He signed Landry Fields with the sheer purpose of making sure that the Knicks couldn't get him, because he locked in their cap space for a little bit. That's kind of the story how it worked. I forget the exact nuances of why we got Landry Fields, but I know it was connected to trying to get Steve Nash.
Yeah, I think
And
so
then we
too.
just ended up with Landry Fields without Steve Nash.
Right.
And had the plan worked out perfectly, it would have been terrible for us, because we would have had both Landry Fields and Steve Nash.
I mean, Steve Nash is all-time great, not at the time that we looked to acquire him. Landry Fields was never great.
He was terrible.
I was not a big fan. One funny point on Bargnani. So the draft was held in Jersey. They had the 22nd overall pick. When Bargnani was drafted first overall, he was booed heavily by the New Jersey crowd, which I don't understand at all. Like, were they hoping that he was going to slip? Were they hoping that he was going to fall to 22nd?
I think
so they could take him. I would be cheering. Like, oh my God, thank God he's off the board so he doesn't slip and we take him.
I think the trauma that Andrea Bargnani caused in his last year in the NBA with the Nets was so bad that like the space-time continuum just like
felt the pain.
It shifted and it went back in time, and so Nets fans just had like an intuitive sense to know it's like I'm gonna preemptively boo this guy because I know eventually he's gonna be trash and on our team.
They probably looked at each other.
That's the only thing I could think of.
Yeah, they go like, "Hey, why are you booing him?" It's like, I don't know. I got this bad feeling though. It's like, yeah, me too.
Yeah, got a bad feeling that he's gonna end up on our team and he's gonna suck.
Andrea, first and last European ever selected first overall.
Can't say last. I'm sure there's gonna be a guy pretty soonish. Europeans, man, there's a lot of good ones that keep coming in and will continue to. But whatever. Anyway, okay, let's run past these a lot quicker.
I'm picking up the pace as we're going.
Okay, yeah. So number 10.
I'm going off the board. JJ Barea.
Right. I like it.
Yeah.
Explain very quickly.
He's 5'10", 175. Those are my dimensions.
Yeah.
Makes me think I could play in the NBA. That's why I've selected him. And he's good. Championship, locked down LeBron in the finals.
Yeah.
Still in the league.
You know he can take a cheap shot. That's important.
Yeah, tough guy.
Yeah, that forearm shiver by why am I blanking on his name right now? The guy on the Lakers, the center.
Bynum?
Andrew Bynum, yeah. Like when
Big elbow Bynum.
Yeah. Bad knees Bynum.
Yeah, true. No.
I think during the combine, during these drafts, not only should they measure height and wingspan, measure like a little bit of ball weight, just like plop them on, those scales, those gram, just like
that measure in ounces.
Yeah, behind a discreet curtain, so like we're not embarrassing anyone. Just kind of like plop them out. Maybe a doctor is there to observe.
Yeah,
just note the weight. I don't know what teams would put into how heavy someone's balls are, but I think it's important.
I think it's pretty clear the heavier the better.
I think when they draft a guy, they should say like he's 6'7", 7'1" wingspan, 30-gram balls. I don't even know if that's large.
I don't know. I don't know what a testicle weighs.
Yeah, but I don't know. Start for historical context. We should go to LeBron. You got to weigh his balls so then we can know.
I think we're going to
Jordan's balls.
I mean, you need a few draft years though.
Yeah.
To start to compare.
Yeah. But you're with me on this, right? I think it should be something that should be done.
Totally get it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Okay, but.
JJ Barea.
If had they been measuring it then, I bet JJ's
first overall pick.
We're there.
You never know. 11? It's you.
Yeah, okay, I'll take a Thabo Cephalosha. Solid defender. Kind of shoot the three a little bit. A couple years he had a good 3-point shooting years. Otherwise he was not actually that good at 3-point shooting. But lockdown defender, played on some good OKC teams. Without Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant on like a different team, probably still in a rotation on a good team. So I'll take him now.
5 playoff series where he logged more than 20 minutes per game, never had more than 5 points per game.
He was never a scorer. It's about the other stuff that he did.
Also wasn't a rebounder. Highest rebounds per game 4.
It was about the other stuff that he did. Eventually we're just going to find that he did nothing.
I didn't write down any more of his stats, but I'm assuming he didn't do anything else.
He defended and kind of shot the three. That's basically what he did.
Pretty much. Actually, most notably, he had his leg broken by a cop at a nightclub in New York.
Right, and he sued him.
Yeah, he did. He sued the state of New York.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That proves that nothing good happens when you're close to James Dolan.
Yeah, even within the same state.
Yeah, never safe. Number 12, New Orleans. It's me?
Yeah.
Boobie Gibson?
Okay, fair enough.
Played with LeBron, only played with LeBron. LeBron left, his career ended.
He was a good shooter.
Yeah. I thought he was Mario Chalmers before Mario Chalmers. Same game.
Yeah.
Same size, same game, same stats.
I think Mario Chalmers is probably better. Better handler. And Boobie Gibson was point guard size, but he wasn't really a point guard. He just mostly shot.
Daniel Gibson made $22 million over his career, and he has LBJ to thank for every one of those dollars.
What about a little bit of a shot? A little bit, maybe? A little bit of a skill, but mostly LBJ, yeah.
Yeah.
Feeding him.
Pretty much.
Okay, I'll take the next pick.
Took him to the finals. He was the starting point guard on that finals team.
Yeah, well, you don't have to get into how trash that finals team was.
That is one of the all-time great teams, though, considering how terrible they were outside of LeBron. Like, great teams is in great teams to talk about. It's like
Sure,
up there with the Iverson.
Rephrase that. That was
Yeah.
not. That is one of the all-time like
Great terrible
anomaly
teams.
team. It was crazy.
Yeah, I put them up there with the 2001 Iverson teams.
Yeah.
We got to the finals. We had
Very,
Eric
very.
Snow and-
That's a very poignant, relevant comparison because
Yeah.
singular star who did basically everything plus filler.
like definitely filler. Like not even like average role player.
Anderson, Varejao, Zadrunas, Igauskas.
Old Ilgauskas. Yeah, just oh my god, poor LeBron. Anyway, all right. 13th pick Philly.
Yeah. Okay. I'll take.
You sound super enthused.
Yeah. I'll take Jordan Farmer. I guess.
I didn't even have him. Didn't have him on
true,
the board. Why would you
I've
pick Jordan Farmer?
Most of the guys at this point suck.
That's
He
fair.
had like decent stats. I think he could be a backup point guard.
Play with Kobe. Play with Kobe.
Yeah, he did. But you like to talk about guys they played with. I don't know. Like, look, I think he's a guy who could be a backup PG, and at his peak, he's about a 10 points per game, 4.5 assists
All right.
in 20 minutes. I don't know.
Sure.
That's something, I suppose.
That is
like,
something.
considering all the busts in this draft, at least you're getting a guy who could play in the league a little, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I had Shannon Brown, who averaged career high. Oh, is that career 14 points per game? Shannon Brown.
So you're taking him next to your last pick.
Yeah, I'll take him.
Okay.
Career highlight, massive block. Remember that massive block when it was a trailing block. He caught it. They called a foul on him, but he basically just caught it out of the air and came down with it.
No, I'd have to look at it again. I
Great
know,
block.
like, Shannon Brown always had ups, so. Okay.
Yeah, Shannon Brown.
Okay, 2006 NBA redraft. We're done. Any last thoughts?
I don't ever want to talk about this draft again.
Okay. It shall not be spoken of anymore.
Okay, good.
Have a good one, guys.